In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about the present continuous tense and the past continuous tense. When we use the present continuous tense, we are talking about an action that is happening right now in the present. It's an action that will continue for a while, but it won't last forever. It's not always true. And often when we use the present continuous tense, we're using it to describe pictures. So let's have a look at this picture here of a man who is on a ski slope. So if I were going to describe what's happening in this picture right now, I might use a sentence like, he is falling right now, because we can imagine that action continuing, right? He is falling, falling, falling. I could also say, he is yelling right now, because we can imagine that also continuing. He's falling and he's going, ah! What would not be a good use of the present continuous tense would be, he is breaking his leg. So that is not a verb that can be continuous. You can't break and break and break your leg. When you break your leg, it happens like that. And so that's something you have to think about when you're choosing your tenses. If you want to use the present continuous tense, it has to be a verb that can continue. It has to be an action that is continuous if you want to use a continuous tense. Now let's have a look at the form of this verb. So the form is the way that you make it. So to make this verb tense, you need to use am, are, or is. So those are all present tense forms of the helping verb be, and that shows present tense. And then you need to add ing to the main verb to show that the action is continuous. So if we look at the verb read, if we want to put that into the present continuous tense, we need to use the helping verb be in the present tense, and we need to make sure it agrees with the subject. So if the subject is I, then the present tense of the verb be is am, and then we add ing at the end of the main verb. I am reading. So that shows continuous action because it ends in ing, and the helping verb shows present tense. If the subject is you, then you have to make sure that your helping verb agrees by using are. That's the present tense of the verb be when your subject is you. And then the ing again shows continuous action. You are reading. If your subject is he, she, or it, then the present tense of the verb be should be is, if you want to have good subject-verb agreement. And again, the ing shows continuous action. We are reading, you are reading, they are reading. Now I just want to quickly review action verbs and state verbs, because that's an important consideration when you're choosing the correct tense. So remember, action verbs are the ones that you can see, like run, swim, eat, but state verbs are the ones that you often cannot see, like think, feel, be. So for the present continuous tense, we most often use that tense with action verbs. So here's an example. My niece is jumping on the bed. So definitely jumping is an action we can see. So that's why it's an action verb. And it's a continuous action, right? It's an appropriate verb to use because it's an action that can continue. So let's compare the present continuous and present tense so we can see how they differ from one another and when to use them. So the present continuous tense, we use it with action verbs, those ones that we can see. We use it to describe continuous actions that won't last forever. They're not always true. And we use it to describe actions that are happening right now in the present. On the other hand, with the present tense, we use it most often with state verbs, those ones that we can't see. And we use it to describe facts and habits. Those are things that might last forever. Okay, so let's test that knowledge. If you have the sentence, he blank a nice car, and our verb is the verb have, should we say he has a nice car or he is having a nice car? First of all, let's just decide, is have an action verb or a state verb? Well, can you see that verb happening? Can you see having? No, it's a state verb, right? It's one of those invisible ones. And so that should be your clue that the correct tense there is the present tense. He has a nice car. It's a fact, all right? It's not an action that will continue and then end. It's a fact about him that might not ever change. All right, let's look at the next one. He blank to school every day. Our verb is drive, and is that an action verb or a state verb? Well, we can see somebody driving, right? So it is an action verb, but look at those words every day. That indicates a habit, right? So the correct tense to use here is the present tense. So even though it's an action verb, we're using it to describe a habit. And so that would be the correct tense to use here. Let's look at the last one. He blank to school now. Our verb is drive. So should we say he drives to school now or he is driving to school now? Are we talking about something that's happening now? Yes, we are, because we have that adverb there. So that's our clue that we should use the present continuous tense. And another reason we should use it is because it's a continuous action that's not going to last forever. So he's driving, 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 but when he gets to school, he's going to stop and get out. So it's not a fact that's always true. It's not a recurring habit because it's happening right now. It's an action that won't last forever. So now that we've looked at the present continuous tense, let's continue now and look at the past continuous tense. So the past continuous tense, most of the time we use that to describe a continuous past action that was interrupted by another past action. So here's an example. She was talking on the phone when she got into a car accident. So you can imagine the continuous action in the past. She was talking, 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 driving, 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 when suddenly a car crashed into her. She got into a car accident. So all of this happened in the past, but you had a continuous action that was interrupted by another past action. So that's the most common use of the past continuous tense. It does get used in other ways, but that's the way it's most useful. So how do you make the past continuous tense? It's very similar to making the present continuous tense. You use the helping verb be, but in this instance, it's in the past. So you're going to use was or were as the helping verb to show that it's a past action. And then you're going to add ing to the main verb to show, again, that the action was continuous. So let's look at an example. I was walking. So our helping verb is was, and our subject is I. So we need to make sure that our helping verb agrees with our subject. and then we add ing to the main verb to show that the action was continuous. I was walking. And then if your subject is you, watch out, because you have to make sure that your helping verb agrees with the subject. So in this case, it would be you were walking. And then it changes back for he, she, and it. You go back to was, and then add ing to show that the action is continuous. And then it goes back to were again for we, you, and they. We were walking, you were walking, they were walking. So here's another example. They were walking home when it started to rain. So they were walking, continuous action in the past, when all of a sudden it started to rain. All the actions in the past, one of them is continuous and the other one interrupted the continuous action. So in summary, we use the present continuous tense when the action is happening now, right in the present. It will continue for a while, but not forever. So here's an example. I am teaching right now. You are listening to me. But what we can't say is, I am breaking my leg. So that's not a correct way to use it, because breaking your leg is not a continuous action. We most often use the past continuous tense to describe a continuous past action that was interrupted by another past action, such as she was talking on the phone when she got into a car accident. To make the continuous tenses, use the helping verb be and add ing to the main verb. So for the present continuous tense, that means I am studying, you are studying, she is studying. We are studying, you are studying, they are studying. So notice how the helping verb changes depending on your subject, but they all show the present tense, and then the main verb has ing to show that the action is continuous. With the past continuous, your helping verb is be again, but this time in the past tense. And watch out, because the subject-verb agreement there is a little tricky. I was studying, you were studying, she was studying, we were studying, you were studying, they were studying. So the helping verb shows that the action was in the past, and then the ing on the end of the main verb shows that the action was continuous. And then finally, we often use action verbs, those ones that you can see, with the present and the past continuous tense. Okay, so good luck with those tenses. Remember, you need to use a verb that can be continued.